Five, four, three, two, one. Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Alex Gortney, and I'm here with Nick Queen, and this is episode 4 of Developer Soup. So today's podcast, we're just going to be going over our goals of where we're at, actually, as far as meeting them, and going to talk to you about just any future updates that we're going to be making in our goals. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So Nick, let's go ahead and talk about first off your actual first goal here that you actually kind of met. Uh, Finally got around to doing, which was finishing Treehouse, and then you actually started to apply for your first job interview yesterday.
Yeah, well, I finished Treehouse. First off, last week we should have had a show out. We did not have a show out. I'm sure some people are like, "Oh my God, they're gone," or something like that. I actually was sick with allergies and all kinds of crap. So so we didn't have our show last week. But during that time, part of the goal that I had from episode 3 was I was going to finish the full stack JavaScript track at Treehouse, which I was able to do during my vacation while I was off from work. So I was able to finish it, which was great. I also worked on my first, web app, which is up on my website now at nickqueen.com. Which is it's a JavaScript app that pulls through a AJAX request through jQuery from Board Game Geeks. It's basically it pulls the Board Game Geeks has this.
It's essentially an API call that he's getting the
Yeah,
information
it's an
from.
API call, but I'm trying to think of it's called a hotness list.
Yeah.
So they have the top 50 hotness. So it pulls that list. I put them, I put that list together in a row, has the pictures and links to them. That's up on my website. Yeah, you're like you said, API. So we had a couple of difficulties with that, which you were helping me with. Someone else was helping me with. It was mainly because honestly, one of the things I probably the most valuable thing I think both of us learned is not all APIs
Are
are.
the same.
Yeah, not all. So
there's a quality level in APIs essentially.
yeah, so Board Game Geeks themselves has an XML API. I wanted a JSON API.
I actually have an idea, just kind of off topic, but
Sure.
I was going over this when I was talking about with I think it was Node,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a way to they were taking not using a library but just taking the data that was being passed in to the URL, parsing it to a string, and then parsing it into a JSON object.
Huh.
So I'm curious if you're able to take and parse an XML just into one giant concatenated string,
Mm-hmm.
and then parse into a JSON object. But anyway, that's something I just thought of. Anyway, go ahead and finish what you're saying.
Yeah, and when we were doing that, I was looking because I wanted, I didn't know I really wanted to work with the XML. I kind of wanted to work with the JSON because I like JSON, just a better format.
Mm-hmm.
Found the JSON somebody else to put together for them, but we had all kinds of issues with that because I don't mean you spent forever. I think you spent more time than I did because it was kind of became a white well for you for like trying to figure out why it wouldn't do what you wanted it to do. Needless to say, at the end of the day, the long story short, and the lesson learned is not all APIs are built the same. Some of them go up to really high standards. Some of them are
So
what they are. Yeah, yeah. So, but it is working. It's up on my website. You can take a look at it. I got some help from Jesus Castillo, also from at the Code Newbie Slack channel, which also taught me something about document ready in jQuery and why everything came up with no errors or anything, and it was still like, why aren't you working? It was crazy. So, needless to say, so at this point, I have actually started working on now. I went back to Ruby on Rails because I really enjoyed Ruby on Rails at the beginning, um, and that was, what I wanted, is to work with. And anyways, JavaScript is something that everybody needs to know if you're going to work on the web. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I'm working on Ruby on Rails, going through Michael Hartle's Ruby on Rails tutorial, and at the same time I did apply for a job, and actually I got called by a recruiter. I had applied for something before. He said he'd get back to me if he ever had like a junior web developer type position open, and so one did. And I had it was an interesting. I think when we were talking about this, you'd never heard of this either, Alex, but I know for sure I'd never heard of it. Something called Spark Hire, where basically,
Yeah, I looked it up the other day. I thought it was pretty interesting how that works.
Yeah, I mean it's. I still don't know exactly what I think about it. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of get to the point where it's like, I don't know if I like it. I don't know if it's something I would,
Personally, the Spark Hire thing, like, I get why it's there, but to me, it almost seems kind of to kind of scam me on the internet. I guess, like, it kind of seems fake.
Well,
but you got actually talked to by somebody, so I guess in a way it's it's legit, unless it's just complete BS. But I mean, I looked it up. It seems legit to me, the whole thing. I mean, it's an actual app. I thought it was interesting personally, and if I were to come from a recruiter side or an interview side, I think it'd be not a really interesting way to actually see somebody before you see them in person, rather than just taking their resume at face value.
Yeah, I think the reason I could see value with it is so if I'm hiring a lot of people and I want to make sure that I'm building a team that will fit well together, some people, so it's kind of like basically so you don't waste your time. But at the same time, the other side I look at it is, so basically, just to give those that don't know exactly, so the Spark Hire interview is they send you the link, and I guess the company itself is paying for the service, the Spark Hire service, and they can put a couple, some questions on there. It's a one-way interview. You sit down in front of your computer. So Alex, when I said I'm doing an interview, and we pull up on Skype or whatever, and he's like, "You look like a mafia boss." So of course I had my suit on, shirt and tie, because they want you to treat it like it's an actual interview. So I'm sitting in my house, shirt and tie on, jacket.
Goes on chat roulette, and
yeah, it's like
it's kind of what it was like looking at, like,
basically, yeah. So you come up, you go start the interview, and it comes up and it asks the first question, tell me a little bit about yourself. You have unlimited takes, and you have 1 minute to answer the question. So it's like, tell me a little bit about yourself, and why are you looking for a new position? You got 1 minute to answer that question on video.
Now, were you able to retake? You said you had multiple takes?
Yeah. I mean, the second question for some reason had only 2 takes, which was extremely nerve-wracking. But I think it also helped in a way, because it's like, okay, you can't do this stuff.
Yeah, and I see by having multiple takes, though, I think that's awesome, because it gives you like time to think of the perfect answer type thing. Rather, like, because I know a lot of people, they go into an interview and they'll ask like what you were having trouble with. It said, tell me a little bit about yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of laugh at that question, because they expect this same response of I like to do one thing. I found out is you don't answer it of, oh, I like to go fishing on the weekend type thing, or that's kind of like basic interviewing. But one thing I found out is even just answering saying, oh, I'm hardworking and outstanding, I don't even say that no more. I learned not to say that no more. It's just stupid. Like, to me at least, I use that as like I think that's more of a standard thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of off topic. What I'm saying is just overall, I think it's cool that you have unlimited idea takes.
So it's cool, but it's also it's one of those nerve-wracking things. Like, so I would sit there, and it would come up. I'd hit start. It'll count down from 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, you know,
Yeah, you're just,
dang
you
it,
know,
and you hit stop, and it's like retake, and so I kept screwing up at the beginning because it makes you really self conscious of
what you're
what are
saying
you saying,
versus, yeah, and I think that's what I was saying. Like, but it's nice because you get time to rethink and rephrase things. And so, like I was saying, I don't like saying I'm outstanding and hardworking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to say it that way. I'd rather say, I'll do what's needed and do it in a certain time frame that's needed and make sure it gets produced at all cost.
Yeah. Well, and
That's
something to think about with any of that. I mean, just as somebody that works with people, and you want to be able to, I can say I'm very motivated, and that's my idea of motivated versus your idea of motivated, or that's two different things. So it's more of like like whenever you write a story, they say show don't tell. Like I could say that
you're
Tom
motivated all day long.
Sawyer's a greedy person or whatever, but if I show a reason, so you want to always kind of give them an example, but that comes with the problem that's in with the spark hire thing. How do you do that in 1 minute?
Well, again, it's pretty much it's kind of like speed dating from when I saw of it. But
Exactly. Yeah.
but I mean, either way, in an interview, you really only if you really think about it, you only have a couple minutes per question.
Sure.
I just don't think you notice it, but you really are answering it within a matter of a minute. And with me, I'm able to just come up with stuff on the fly. But I honestly think doing what you did, like you said, you're more self conscious of it. Rather, if I just sat down face to face and you told me to tell you, or you told me to tell me a little bit about myself, I'm not going to see 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then tell me about yourself. I'm just going to start saying, well, I'm a self-motivated person because I went to college online. I taught myself through Treehouse. I learned how to get stuff done on a time frame, which it leads into being able to get stuff done on a time, on a deadline, which comes in handy working in a big production environment where time is literally money.
Yeah, but the other thing to think about on this with the old self-conscious thing. So if you're in an interview, if I'm sitting there, I'm across from somebody and I'm talking to them. I feel like you feed off of somebody. You can see, if I'm talking to somebody and I can tell if they're engaged. They're shaking their head or they're nodding their head. They're leaning in, the way their face is. That gives me feedback. Okay, am I on the right track or not? Or am I engaging?
Yeah, but if you're doing it
on
the video, it's worse because you don't know. Like that's
not only that, you're looking at yourself. The timer is up at the top right hand corner. So you're like, okay, so it's like 60, 59, 58, and you're sitting there like, I got 1 minute to sum myself up. I don't know.
I mean, like, I guess
years of work or whatever.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And I understand that because, like, I hate being forced to record something that I don't want to record. Like, I just got out of my public speaking class and I was forced to speak for 10 minutes. And I could sit here and talk to you for 30, 40 minutes, whatever, in a podcast just fine, right?
Yeah.
But when you're forced to look at a clock and you're forced to speak on something, you're like, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done? It's all you can think about. So it's harder to do. But I think it just comes with practice. I mean, either way, hopefully, you hear back from them. And if not, you at least got the experience to even get to see that, do that. You just got to just got to keep going. So you mentioned that you were going into Ruby again, and from your switch from JavaScript and Node. How close are you to, I guess, working on a legit projects like I am? Like, I'm gonna talk about that in a sec, but you kind of mentioned it to me beforehand, but I was just kind of curious, like, where are you at?
I think I'm pretty close. I'm getting that echo again. I have no idea where this is from. Somebody is sabotaging me. But I'm getting pretty close. I mean, I've got an idea for a project. We talked about that before with a Twitter politics type app. And I'm trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to, get to that. But I'm getting pretty close. My reason for switching from, as I said, I don't really see it as a switch. I got into a little bit of Node.js, but I needed the JavaScript no matter what. Like I said, JavaScript.
You didn't really switch. You just kind of moved. Like you kind of just extended what you're You know,
Yeah. I once again, I started a long time ago with Ruby
Rails. Yeah.
and Rails. Yeah, so I going back to it pretty much because I took a detour to learn JavaScript, so I have a good basis in it.
Well, in a way, I think it's great that you did because honestly, if you didn't switch, I don't think I would ever be where I'm at. Excuse me now, because I would probably still be stuck doing Android.
Yeah, well, I brought you to the dark side,
and I love it.
I tried to tempt you to Rails. I told you the other day that we have Pi, and
I didn't want to go to Rails, and I'm going to talk about this now. Now that we kind of see where you're at, and you're going to be building stuff, and we'll get into your goals later in. But with me, you finished your stuff last week, and it's a week later, and I've been off for a week myself, and I'm at the last stage of the Treehouse full stack JavaScript course, and I finished everything on there. I had to do a little bit of extending on the for you guys that know Node.js. I learned a little bit of the Express library, which I love right now. And I started picking up last night on MongoDB and Mongoose, which is another library that's built on top for Mongo databases to do all that. So I'm actually nearing the end of myself to where I'm going to actually start working on projects here, like probably tonight, actually. And I'll get into that later on. But it's been a long time coming, honestly, for me. It's been about 3 months now since I switched to JavaScript, almost 3 months, technically 2 now, and I don't know. I think it's pretty awesome. I'm finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel because watching Nick do his interview, it just kind of hyped me up knowing that I'm like that much closer to actually being able to be in the same position he was, looking like a mob boss on the other side of the camera,
But you won't be able to pull it off as well as I did.
No, I don't have a bald head.
Yeah, okay, interview over.
Yeah. It's called a Rogaine for men. No,
joking. Yeah. Well, I got to get the job before I can afford
that. I gotta go to Bosley when I get a job. That's what it's in my salary negotiation.
Well, I think at this point, with the bald head, I think at some point I'm just gonna go with I don't know if you know Breaking Bad. I'm just gonna go full Heisenberg, shave my hair off, and. Just embrace it.
Just wear aviators.
Yeah, it'd be great.
But anyway,
you've been working on your. I mean, you say you're gonna make a legitimate app. You've been working on this, quiz app that you've been doing for a while. You're talking about doing the Mongo and everything. Yeah. I think you've been working on a legitimate app for probably before our last episode.
Yeah, so I forgot about that. So I was working on this quiz application that was like a project through Treehouse as like a challenge. So I did that. I actually did it twice. And I did it differently actually than everybody else did. And I actually got it to get it reviewed by Kevin O'Shazy, I think. If I butcher your name, excuse me. Anyway, I was calling Kevin over at zombiecodekill.com for you guys that seen that on my Twitter. And I wrote and he reviewed it, and I actually learned even more just from him reviewing it about some cool stuff like strict JavaScript, and where you type in a couple words strict and it'll actually make sure you type in certain characters and stuff like that. And I also learned about another thing called linting. They call it linting or whatever. Anyway, it's a JavaScript. I want to say it's like a error checker almost is what it really is.
That's interesting.
And you throw your code in there, and it came up with like 40 something errors that I didn't even see. It was just syntax errors. So it was a really nice way to clean your code up. So by getting that by getting that reviewed by him, it was nice to see because, he's got way more experience than I have, but just by getting it reviewed, it really showed me, where my mistakes were, and I was able to fix them and then redo the whole application. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm going to wrap it up now, with the quiz and just kind of move on. and then just kind of combine everything I now know, because that quiz application, honestly, it seems like it's really easy. It's actually pretty hard to do. The logic behind that thing is ridiculous. Just something that basic for a new beginner like I am. But, the good thing is I was at least able to figure it out and, finish it up and, complete something A to Z,
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was a big boost in my morale, I guess, for the fact that I was able to finish it, Um, I think the cool thing about that was I was able to actually incorporate, everything from the JavaScript to the jQuery, excuse me, I was able to implement everything I learned from jQuery as far as the, like, doing modal overlays and things like that. But by myself, so I think that was pretty cool. But yeah, my next app is going to be just a basic. I want to start incorporating Express and excuse me.
Don't die.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
But I want to incorporate Node and Express and Mongo and all that stuff into a CRUD application. And for you guys that don't know what that is, essentially going to be doing create, update, and delete stuff, but with a database and just incorporating everything in between. So yeah, that's gonna be my next thing though. I'm really excited to actually get it off the ground and going. And then once I do that, I'm gonna plan on moving into some Angular once my applications get bigger and move into probably the mean stack development.
Yeah, I was about to ask. It sounds like most of the stuff is you want to do mean.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's all that's everything it is. Yeah, the mean. For you guys don't know what mean is, it's the yeah, I don't know what does M stand for again. Oh, it's the Mongo,
that's the
Mongo Express, JavaScript, and like Angular. Yeah, it's all those compiled into one.
Did you say Node? I didn't hear Node in there.
Yeah, Node and yeah.
So it's like, M is for the Mongo, E is the Express, A is the Angular, and N is the Node.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the whole thing behind that. It's actually, it sounds confusing, but it's actually really cool once it's all come together, and I've really enjoyed it. But yeah, right now, like I said though, I'm just finishing up the last parts of Gulp, which I've actually seen that actually pretty useful too. I mean, but like I said, there's just so much to learn.
There is.
It's just like, it's ridiculous. Like, but yeah, it's kind of pretty much caught up on that. What?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, and I think like where I'm at, I mean, the biggest thing that I see myself needing to learn, like I feel like I know the like the basics and like JavaScript, or I'm learning the basics of Ruby, but I know my biggest goal is going to be like trying to figure out how to actually do a project, like take this big huge chunk of something and break it down.
You're still working on your problem solving, and I think pretty that's kind of like what I've already kind of gotten down.
When you had your Android stuff before too, so
yes,
that with that.
Kind of. I think the thing that helped me the most was when I was in school, or I'm in school obviously, but when I was taking I had a logic course, like a basic introduction to computer logic, and it was just like it wasn't code, it was just like pseudocode, but it was like drag and drop, and it told you to come up with a solution, and then before you came up with a solution, you had to type in the pseudocode and explain your solution. And then once I did that, I moved into god awful C++, and I'm sorry for you guys that love that language. I just was never able to pick that up right off the bat, and it was just terrible to learn right off the bat on, obviously, but I had to take it, and that one really put me to the test of certain things. So I kind of got that problem solving, and then that's when I was doing Java, sort of, and then I moved into Android. But I don't really consider what I was doing in Android, because like I only built like one legitimate app. I don't know if you saw that. Did you ever see that when I put up the quote generator like a long time ago?
No, I told you about it before, but I think you said at one point you were going to show me, and then we got sidetracked into another shiny thing somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, yeah. And so I mean, like, I guess over the course of the 6 months that I've been doing it, I guess my problem solving skills gotten like a lot better. But I think my thing is too, like with my next app, what I'm gonna be doing is just like the way I break it down, just to help you out and everybody else out that has the same problem that Nick does. Is the way I look at it is obviously look at what you want it to do. You know, the bare bones basics of it, but don't look at it as a whole project. You know what I'm saying? Look at it as in tiny pieces. You know, and build it like me. I build I build a lot of my projects into like small pieces. So like with mine, building a login page. Okay, I want to have all this stuff where the user logs in and then it does all this other stuff in the back end. That's confusing as all hell if you look at it that way. But if I look at it as, all right, the first thing I'm going to do is build the login page in HTML, build my templates that are going to dynamically be generated. Once that's done, then I look at it as, okay, what's the next chunk? Getting basic user input, right? See what I'm saying? So it's kind of like what I think it was named Andrew Chalky or something. What on Treehouse?
Chalkley,
Chalkley. Yeah, his way of doing it makes more sense. But
yeah, I do like his
problem, the solution, and then the implementation.
I think where my struggle becomes is like, you know, I know like the basics of, you know, like okay, so I need to build this, I need to build this. Sometimes I don't know. I think I get kind of caught up in the like, okay, exactly how does this look? You know, it's almost like I think I posted one day on Twitter. I shared this thing where it's like, okay, how to draw an owl. You know, and you draw a circle, you put the line through it, and then like the next thing is like you fill out the owl. You know, it's like the whole owl is there or something. You know, so I mean, sometimes they really do. Some of those tutorials and everything break it down. And okay, so we're going to do this, and it's like, well, wait a second, how did you get to that?
I think the other thing too is you got to just sit down and do it.
Yeah,
that's my thing. Is I worked on more applications, just like basic stuff in C++, and you know, by myself with no help. That I had to figure it out and sink or swim. So I was forced into problem solving. You know.
Yep.
And I think the biggest thing I can tell everybody is stop when you hit a certain point, like I have. You hit a track and you know it's ending. And you know, don't go learn another track. Take everything you just learned, sit down and develop a program. Once you've done that, then go to another track and learn more. Otherwise, you're going to get on this thing of riding the tutorial train, and all you're going to be able to do is what the tutorial tells you to do. You know, and I think that's where people get screwed up. And I looked at it's like my quiz application. I was so worried about if my quiz is correctly built, if my code is structured correctly. I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't care. It's done. It's built and it works. You know, someone's gonna look at it and probably go, okay, it can be fixed here or it's crap here. But the way I looked at it is I built it, and it was my first thing I built without like having to hold someone else's hand and walk me through it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, which you know, I felt like I did to some degree. I did build the Ajax, the API call.
That program. One you did yourself, yeah. You did that with mine.
But I knew I was going to head to Ruby. I had or Rails. You know, I had a little bit of in there where it's like, you know, I might go to Node, I might do this, you know, and then I did like what I did before. I committed like, okay, I'm going to go back to Rails because that's what I was doing in the first place. You know, I've already did some. I'm going back to it. That's my goal. Because I figure if I learn a language, I can go. You know, I might get a job in doing Python language, but I know the basics of a language. I can take all that information and, you know, I know I've learned once, I can do it again, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is like I said, still you got to just finish what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, just stop switching and just stick with it. Like we talked about that before, you know. And I think you've been doing that now, and like you said, you just gotta just keep working at it and building. And I think like with me, I'm just sick of tutorials. And I think that's the
Yeah.
other thing. You get to the point where you want the tutorials, and then you just like I just noticed I hit this wall, where it's just I'm done, and I just need to break away from it,
Yeah.
But anyway, we're sort of running out of time here, so let's go ahead and just wrap things up, and let's go ahead and talk about what our goals are for this coming week.
So, I mean, for me, like I said, I've got hopefully a job interview. So the Spark Hire thing would go hopefully to a face-to-face interview. Part of part of my goal is to kind of solidify a little bit of my knowledge again that I've had before with CSS and JavaScript, just so that when I go into this interview, I don't completely flub it. But I'm also going to be continuing working on, Ruby on Rails. So far, I'm on chapter 5 of the Michael Hardo tutorial, so I want to get a couple more chapters out of the way, pretty much. I want to make sure I know what I'm doing before I move on, so I'm kind of taking it a little bit slow. So,
how many of those you got left?
The chapters?
Yeah.
That's a good question. 1 second. You can go ahead and start answering yours while I look that up.
So with my goals, as I mentioned, I'm at the end of the Treehouse course. And I'm finishing up tonight, so I got like 2 tracks left in the Gulp series.
Mm-hmm.
Once I've done that, I plan on finishing up the rest of my. Well, it's finished. I just got to like put some actual answers and questions in my quiz app, and I'm going to push that to GitHub for the final change. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to creating my actual first application. And essentially start the gravy train from there and start the stress of looking for a job again and, the excitement of going into a job interview that I have never had to do before.
Oh, you've never been in a job interview or just...
No, I've been in a lot of job interviews. I just meant with being in retail, I've gotten like 2 or 3 jobs like calling me in a day to hire me type of thing, right? Or interviews to where I go in and I know automatically exactly what to tell them to get the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have that experience. But with code, it's like I know what I'm doing, but it's a completely unknown thing, what they're going to ask or, what the environment's going to be like,
Sure. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I didn't know if you never had it. The way you looked at it, I was like, you never had a job?
No.
You have so much to learn soon,
No. Yeah, with me, no. Like I said, that's why.
Run away.
Yeah, no, that's why I said, yeah, I have jobs. I was just saying.
Sorry. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, boy. Yeah. So I looked it up. I have 12 chapters total. So it's, I'm kind of a little less than halfway through. And getting there.
I would start building projects as you go along.
Well, that's why I said what I'm kind of doing is that, like I said before, I have that Twitter application in mind. Right now I'm kind of, he did a little bit of the background stuff, a little bit of a refresher on Ruby. So at this point, I'm going to start probably putting that together, and just so, people understand a little bit what I'm talking about, basically I'm wanting to do something where, you have all these different presidential election, people wanting to be president. And so I want to be able to build something where you can go to the website, you can see all their names, and you can click on their name and you'll pull up the latest Twitter, search for everything that's mentioning like Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump or whatever. Twitter
data and poll data and different things like that.
Yeah, because I think that's something, so basically it'll help me, it'll have me working with the Twitter API, which is a pretty complicated API. It'll be in Rails, which I think would be, a pretty simple project just to kind of get my feet wet in Rails. Basically because that's something that interests me. I've always been, somebody that likes politics.
Yeah. Well, so I guess overall, the main thing is to just kind of do me because just so we can wrap things up. As I was gonna say, overall, essentially, me and him are gonna be both doing our separate way. Obviously, with our separate ways and our separate languages,
Mm-hmm.
But we're still. I want to eventually figure out how we can combine the two. But either way, we're both at the end of our or I think I would say I'm at the end of my learning curve type thing for right now, as in like that steep curve that you have to get up to top to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're at the end of the JavaScript portion, I guess. You're still climbing the mountain.
I think
Cool.
both of us are actually. I mean, I think we're both at the end of like the JavaScript thing, and you and I have picked two different frameworks. So
Yeah,
you sound like you want to go for the, the Node, like you said, the mean stack. I've decided to go with the Rails and Ruby, framework. So basically, I mean, it's kind of like kind of a diverging a little bit. Basically, just on how the framework that we're working with. That's more of the, because I think no matter what, we could be doing Python. I think you're still going to run into JavaScript.
yeah.
It's
It's
kind of
how
like
it
the
works.
elephant in the room.
Yeah,
You're never going to get away from it. You're never get away
yeah.
from HTML. You never get away from CSS.
You
So
just
those are
want to.
things you always need to know.
Yeah. Well, either way, I mean, like I said, I think we're both heading toward the end where we're ready to hit the ground running with apps and start
Yeah.
really showing our progress. As in, all right, hey, I just went through job interview 301.
Well, I hope we
That
don't get to that point. Yeah.
well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. It's gonna be that.
Yeah.
That's the next hill to climb after you get the apps and you get that going. But overall, guys, check in next week on Friday, and we'll let you know where we both went or ended up for the week for our goals, and hopefully, I have something completed, and hopefully, Nick hears something back from his interview to give you guys something to look forward to. Anyway, guys, if you guys, I just want to also let you guys know if you guys have any topics you guys want us to talk about or you possibly like to be on the show, let us know on our Twitter handles. At I think it's mine, if I can even remember, on Twitter handle at Alex Courtney, and then again at Nick Queen, or you can send us a comment on the site. Either way, let us know if you guys want anything special. And I think that's about it. And again, my name is Alex Courtney.
And mine's Nick Queen.
And we will talk to you later.
All right. Bye. Bye.